Now we move on to Dream Theater's A Change of Seasons, which is actually their EP. Usually I don't like to do EPs, but this one is 50 minutes in length, so I might as well talk about it. And it does have what many consider to be their best song on it, a 20-minute suite by the name of A Change of Seasons. Change of Seasons came out in 1995, a year after Awake, and the artwork is absolutely bizarre. I would say it's dog shit, but it kind of is representing the song. That's, I think, Mike Portnoy as a kid in the snow and kind of like representing him waiting and sadness or whatever. And the song A Change of Seasons actually has to do with Mike Portnoy's mother, but we'll get to that. So this album is the first to feature Derek Sherinian, their new keyboardist of this. And I gotta say, Derek Sherinian is probably my least favorite member of Dream Theater ever. He's just kind of generic jazz keyboard. I mean, he was okay with the band, but it was kind of like a situation where he had to kind of catch up to their level, but not really. I mean, a lot of the stuff he plays is sloppy and not very memorable. Now, there is a version before this with Kevin Moore, where they played it with James LaBrie live. And it definitely sounded a lot better with Kevin Moore adding a lot of keyboard stuff. But this version has a lot more interesting stuff to it. The intro's a lot longer and more groovy and stuff, and there's some really great acoustic work. And they even add a chorus that's way better. But my biggest problem, other than Kevin Moore's work being butchered by the shitty Derek Sherinian, is that there was originally an amazingly crazy classical guitar and keyboard unison that Kevin Moore and John Petrucci used to play, but it's no longer in here. They play like a slow guitar solo. I'm okay with the slow guitar solo because that was in the original version, but I hate that they removed that unison that happens at the end of the solo, because what made it cool is that it seemed like John Petrucci kept getting more and more epic and melodic, and then all of a sudden got to that unison, which was like the eruption. Now, this whole EP happened because the fan base kept bugging the band so much to release the song Change of Seasons, release it. So they finally decided to release it because they weren't going to put it on Awake, and it was just kind of hogging up their time, and it was a 20-minute song, and the record label didn't want them to put it on any normal album, so they finally released it as an EP. Now, the song is absolutely incredible. It has a lot of like sampling from the movie of Robin Williams, The Dead Poets Society. So we start out with this amazing first section called The Crimson Sunrise, which has a lot of really great melodic sections to it, really great acoustic intro. It sets up the atmosphere perfectly. And then we go into that really great epic riff that goes into that groove. It keeps getting more and more crazy and epic until you get to that crazy keyboard and guitar unison that goes right into the main section of the song. The main section, I believe, is called Innocence. And I think the first line has to do with like watching the crimson sunrise. Now that we get to this section, I might as well talk about what A Change of Seasons is about. Now, A Change of Seasons is metaphorical for the story of when Mike Portnoy's mother died. He's comparing it to waiting for the results and waiting for this information when he was young. It was like waiting for seasons to change. It was just so much was going through his head. So what happened was that his teacher, I think like a day before, was telling the students, sort of like in the movie Dead Poets Society, you gotta seize the day. So he went home, and before his mother got on a plane trip to go, because I think his parents were divorced at this time, he told his mom he loved her because he just had to seize the day. He'd be like, and that was the last time he ever saw her, because that very day she died in a plane crash. Now, Innocence is really, really cool and has some really great melodic stuff to it, and then it gets like really heavy and stuff, building up to the amazing new chorus that they added in this version. And I think this chorus worked so much better than the weird original chorus that they had where James was just singing constant falsettos that sounded terrible. This one definitely has a more catchy groove where the whole band is singing along. And it definitely is probably one of the highlights of the whole song. Then we get to the melodic section called Carpe Diem, where all of a sudden it goes into this really dark, melodic sort of section where you hear that section from Dead Poets Society with Robin Williams saying the Carpe Diem, seize the day. And then it goes into this really amazing melodic line, and John just keeps changing it over and over and over and over, and it keeps progressing. It sounds amazing. James LaBrie's singing here is absolutely perfect. And then they have this other part from the movie where one of the students was saying, like, something about when leaves change in August, relating to the A Change of Seasons theme. This section is very cool, but then all of a sudden it goes into a more fast-paced section called The Darkest of Winters. But still melodic, like the drums are getting faster and stuff and get more chaotic and stuff. James is kind of singing weird, and then all of a sudden it just kind of goes into the same sort of thing, but it sounds like the keyboards are kind of subtly building something up. And then James comes in with that amazing scream. He starts screaming, preparing for the flight. I held with all my might, fearing my deepest fright. She walked into the night. She turned for one last look. She looked me in the eye. She said, I love you, goodbye. And then it gets absolutely frantic from there. That epic build-up leads into this really crazy part, this really great riff, and you start hearing like all this weird dialogue and stuff. And that goes into some really crazy progressive riffage. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on, a lot of crazy time changes, and all of a sudden they go into this like weird groovy part. This part's all over the place. Slow kind of middle part with Another World, where it's kind of talking about the aftermath of Mike Portnoy kind of having to go through it and the horrible loss. And it's sort of like this melodic sort of atmosphere, and all of a sudden it feels like it's going to go in like this weird poppy direction, but then it like fixes itself from doing that. I'd say probably the weakest section of the song, but it's still pretty good. And that leads into The Inevitable Summer, which is mostly just an instrumental section with the guitar solo that John Petrucci does. That's really great. And they get to a really crazy progressive breakdown. And I'll say this, Derek Sherinian does a pretty dang cool keyboard solo, but it sounds a lot like Yes. Then we have The Crimson Sunset, which is pretty much just the outro to this whole song. It's a really cool way to end it. It keeps building up upon itself in this really cool epic outro type of way. A great way to end this amazing, amazing song. Then we have a bunch of cover songs, because mostly they just wanted to release the A Change of Seasons. The rest of it is just, I think, live covers. The first one is Funeral for a Friend / Love Lies Bleeding from Elton John. And this cover is absolutely amazing. I'd say it's probably the best cover off the entire thing. It works perfectly. I think Derek Sherinian does a really great job with the epic ambient intro, and of course they do perfect justice with the progressive rock stuff. And that's the thing with Dream Theaters. When they cover stuff, even though they're amazingly technical, they always do it justice by playing it in their own way, but they don't do it like ridiculously overblown. Especially with all these covers, James LaBrie's vocal style fits Elton John's the most. His vocal work, especially on the chorus, actually sounds really good. I'd say best cover off the whole thing. Now we have Perfect Strangers, a Deep Purple cover, and this one just does nothing for me. I think they do it terribly, and I don't even think it's that great of a song in the first place. Then we have a Led Zeppelin medley cover. You have first The Rover, and then that goes into Achilles' Last Stand, and then the song remains the same. Not a big fan of this one, actually, although I do kind of like John Mayung's bass playing on Achilles' Last Stand. It's just the rest of it just sounds like a disorganized mess. Then we have the big medley, which I'd say the first half of it's really cool. The second half of it's kind of forgettable. The first half has like really cool classic progressive rock stuff. You got like Pink Floyd, Kansas Queen, and even a little bit of Journey. But then it goes into like Dixie Dregs and then this one Genesis song that I don't even like. But of course, the first part of it is actually In the Flesh by Pink Floyd. And I think that James LaBrie does an amazing job with Roger Waters' voice. And then that goes into a crazy section of the progressive intro of Carry On My Wayward Son. And I think it fits perfectly. And then it goes into a section of Bohemian Rhapsody, and it actually flows really nice so far. And that goes into Love and Touch and Squeeze, which sort of comes off as like an encore sort of feel to it. But then Cruise Control and Turn It On Again, those sections just feel very pointless. It's still a decent medley, but it's not nearly as good as the Love Lies Bleeding cover. So that's it for A Change of Seasons. A decent EP, has some cool cover songs on there. They do some nice medleys and stuff, but easily the highlight of this whole thing and worth buying the whole thing for is the A Change of Seasons suite.
To feel the warmth, thrill of confusion, that space cadet glow. Tell me is something eluding you, sunshine.